And welcome to another Ministry Minute with Pastor T. Look here, this morning I'm talking about there's nothing too hard for God. I am still parked in Jeremiah. I am in Jeremiah chapter 32, and I'm going to start at verse number 16. And it reads, Then after I have given the papers to Baruch, I prayed to the Lord, O sovereign Lord, you made the heavens and earth by your strong hand and powerful arm. Nothing is too hard for you. You show unfailing love to thousands, but you also bring the consequences of one's generation sin upon the next. You are the great and powerful God, the Lord of heaven's armies. Amen. Look here. Jeremiah, he was praying this prayer in prison. Here it is. The Lord had told him earlier in chapter 32, the Lord let him know, look, your cousin gonna come to you and ask you to buy his land. And so he said, and go ahead and do it. And as Jeremiah was sitting in prison, showing up, his cousin came to the prison and say, look here, Jeremiah, I need you to buy my land. By law, you got the first rights to it before it gets offered to somebody else. And while Jeremiah is in prison, he's making a transaction to buy some land. And the Bible declares he bought it for 17 pieces of silver. And it was witnesses in the prison. And they did the paperwork. Then they had a sealed deed and the unsealed deed. And in front of his cousins and all the witnesses, Jeremiah took care of business and had a piece of land for when he got up out of prison. And the Lord told him while he was still there, he said, look, someday people will again own property here in this land and will buy and sell houses in the vineyard, because he told him once he had the deed to put the deed in this pottery jar so it can be preserved for a long time. And after he did all of that, Jeremiah begins to pray, and he begins to tell God how sovereign he is. And he begins to tell God how he made heaven and earth. In other words, Jeremiah began to pray sweet nothings to the Lord and tell him how good he is, how faithful he is. And then he went on to say, nothing is too hard for you. You show unfailing love to thousands. Lord, I'm sitting in prison and I'm making land deals. Look here, have you ever been in a situation or a circumstance and you went to the Lord and the Lord scratched his head and said, I don't know what we gonna do about this. Let me think about it. No, ain't nothing too hard for God. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. There's nothing impossible for him. It may be impossible for us, but there is nothing impossible for our God. And so here it is. And Jeremiah understood, no matter where I find myself in life, Lord, you'll make a way out of no way. And we have to believe that on today. It may look grim, it may look bleak, it may look dark, but there is nothing too hard for God. That diagnosis you got from the doctor, there's nothing too hard for God. That eviction notice, that pink slip on the job, that car acting up, them kids in and out of jail, them kids being rebellious, there's nothing too hard for God. That spouse that can't get right, that keeps letting the sun catch them before daybreak, there's nothing too hard for God. We just have to trust and believe, and we have to take him at his word. So if you locked up in your mind and God said you're going to be free, believe you're going to be free, because here it is. Jeremiah was in prison and the Lord said, your cousin coming and he going to offer you the land. And this is what Jeremiah says in chapter 32. Verse number 8, he says, then just as the Lord had said he would, my cousin Hanamel came and visited me in the prison. He said, please buy my field at Anathoth in the land of Benjamin. By law, you have the right to buy it before it is offered to anyone else. So buy it for yourself. And this is what Jeremiah said. He says, then I knew that the message I heard was from the Lord. Let me tell you, every message God gives you won't be sane. It won't make sense to the natural ear and the natural eye. But if you just trust and believe him, you'll know without a shadow of a doubt that it is the Lord speaking. Amen. God bless you. I hope you've enjoyed this ministry minute. And if it be the Lord's will, I'll be back on tomorrow. Have yourself a blessed day.